Hi guys, today's video is a little different from my usual video. I'm going to be showing you a few art supplies that I picked up in recent weeks. Buying art supplies is one of the most exciting things to me, so I am also super excited to share with you guys what I bought and my thoughts on it. So hopefully you enjoy watching this video as I go through a few things that I picked up recently. So let's start with the art books that I bought. I bought 3 books in total, 2 of which are by the same artist, by Matuis Urbano Witch. The first book is called Tokyo Storefronts and it was published in 2018 and it has a collection of watercolor paintings of shopfronts in Tokyo. The artworks in this book are just so beautiful and I love how each of the shop fronts are so vibrant in color and it just makes them look really cute. And what I love about it is that it's all based on real shops in Tokyo. So when you look at these artworks, it makes you want to go to Tokyo and check out all of these shop fronts there. He has a channel on YouTube where he records the painting process for some of these shop fronts, so it's really nice to be able to watch the videos to see how these paintings were created and then to be able to admire them up front and close in the book. At the end of the book, he also shows his working space and all of the tools he used to create this book, which I really love to read about, so I thought that was pretty cool as well. The next book is by the same artist and it is called Tokyo at Night. This book was published in 2019 and it contains a collection of watercolor paintings of night scenes in Tokyo. The artworks in this book are even more breathtaking because they're so intricate and detailed, and it's amazing to see how he has captured the atmosphere of nighttime using watercolors. Each painting also comes with a description of the location in which this painting was inspired by. So again, this whole book really inspires you to want to travel to Tokyo and just explore all of these places. So if you like the artworks from his 2 books, I really recommend you to check out his YouTube channel. On his channel, he also shows the process for how some of the Tokyo at Night paintings were created. So it's really nice to be able to not only see the finished product, but also see the process in which they were painted. And his channel just has a lot of amazing content and it leaves me feeling really inspired to improve at watercolors. The last book that I got is called A Sky Longing for Memories and it contains artworks from a few films directed by Makoto Shinkai. He directed the film Your Name and most recently Weathering with You, but this book doesn't contain artworks from those 2 films because this one was first published back in 2008, so it contains artworks from a few of his older films. If you have seen any of his works, you would know that the films have the most amazing and beautiful backgrounds in them, which is why I bought this book to study from. Even though the backgrounds are all digitally painted and I don't do digital art, I thought it would still be useful to learn from these, and if you saw my last video, I had a go at painting some of them using gouache. So these are the 3 art books that I bought and I hope to learn from all of them. If you want to have a look at them more in depth, there are some good book reviews on YouTube and I'll link them down below so you can go check those out as well. The next thing that I got isn't an art supply, but it does go hand in hand with the art books I just bought. It is a wooden book stand. For the longest time, I had been holding up my art books with random objects around the house, trying to prop them open so I could study from them. But now that I have this, I can finally hold up the books properly and have them laid out flat in front of me so I can easily look at them and study from them. I bought this from Amazon and I got it in the largest size. I also tested it out with some really tall books that I have and it also holds it well. I also like how you can adjust the angle at which the book sits on it, so that's really helpful, and overall I'm really happy with this purchase. Now let's talk about paper. So I got this Strathmore Visual Journal. It is 300 GSM cold press watercolor paper and it comes with 22 sheets. And the reason I bought this is because I thought it would be the perfect size for my gouache paintings. Recently, I have been doing my gouache paintings on individual sheets of paper where I have a really large sheet and I cut it up into smaller pieces so I can paint on, but I kind of prefer to have them all together in one sketchbook. But at the same time, I also want to be able to take out the paintings if I need to sell them or something. So I like how this sketchbook comes with a ring binder. Even though the pages aren't perforated, I think it will be quite easy for me to cut it out anyways. So I tested out the sketchbook with a painting, and I also made a tutorial for this one, so you can find the tutorial in a separate video. I really liked the paper and I liked the texture of it. It held up really well under all of the paint and water that I used because it is 300 GSM, so it didn't warp or anything, so it was really good, and I'm looking forward to filling up the sketchbook with more paintings. I also got this huge Canon XL mixed media paper. It is A3 sized and is 300 GSM and comes with 30 sheets. The pages are also perforated, so I can easily tear out anything if I need to. This one was quite inexpensive. It was around $27, so that's less than $1 a sheet, so that way I can practice on it freely and not feel guilty if I mess anything up. So I bought this one purely just for practicing and experimenting on. The only thing I am unsure about is the texture of the paper. It has these little ridges on it which aren't too obvious from afar, but if you zoom in, you can see that sometimes the paint doesn't fall in between the little ridges, so it kind of shows up to be a little bit streaky. But since this is just for practice, I guess I'm not too fussed about it, but I do prefer the paper texture of the Canon XL watercolor paper. So here on the left is the watercolor version and on the right is the mixed media paper. So you can see there's quite a visible difference in the texture of the paper, and now I've also included the Strathmore paper on the left as well, which is more similar to the Canon watercolor paper. So the mixed media paper is quite different from the other two. When I was buying this at the art store, I also asked them what the difference is between the Canon watercolor paper and the mixed media paper, and they said that the mixed media should be better suited to gouache because the paper is less absorbent than the watercolor paper, which absorbs a lot more water. So that's what the difference is, but personally I don't feel like I prefer the mixed media more for gouache. I think I still like the paper texture of the watercolor paper. Next, I got this huge bottle of white gouache. This one is 150 milliliters. You can see I have gone through my fair share of white gouache, and each time I keep upgrading the size because I find that I just use so much white when I'm painting. The last bottle I got lasted me a little while, so I think this bottle, which is more than triple the size of my last one, should last me for the rest of the year at least, and I think it is so worth it for its price. It was $27 for this huge bottle of white. The next few tubes of paints were kindly gifted to me by Art Spectrum. They're an Australian brand based in Melbourne, and I have been using their gouache paints for a while and I really love it. So along with the tubes that I already owned, I now had 18 of their colors, and I of course had to swatch them all out so I could compare them and see what the differences were. The reason I love using these paints is because they have a very smooth and velvety texture, and they also have a flat and even finish. It's not streaky in any way. All of the paints are artist quality, and on the back of the tubes you can see the light fastness and permanence levels. I'm really glad I found this local brand which manufactures products that I enjoy using, because on the internet I don't see many people talking about Australian art brands. So when I research for art products to buy, I'm usually always looking at international products because that's all I'm really hearing about. So it's good that I found a local brand, and if you are also from Australia, then hopefully you can try out these products for yourself, because they can easily be found in most art stores in Australia. And if you're in the UK, I believe they also stock it at Jackson's, and if you're in the US, I think they do have a distributor there, so you should be able to find the products as well. And because it's a local brand, it's not only more accessible and easier to purchase, it's also more affordable. If I compare this to my Winsor Newton gouache paints, the Art Spectrum gouache paints are a lot more affordable, and I don't feel like I'm losing out on any quality. I also bought a few new brushes because I really like trying out new brushes, and I especially like to invest in good ones for gouache, because I find it's much easier to take care of my gouache brushes than it is my acrylic ones. So it just means that if I invest in good brushes for gouache, they don't get ruined as easily, and they'll just last me a really long time. This one here is the Princeton Elite Stroke in the 1/2 inch. It's quite similar to the angular shader that I bought last time, and the reason why I bought this one as well is because I really love the 1/2 inch angular shader. So I was really tempted to try this one out as well, because you can see the bristles are a lot longer and it's also not at an angle, so I wanted to try this out. It is 100% synthetic Kolinsky sable, so it's really nice to use. It has a bouncy kind of texture to it, and because the bristles are so long, it can hold a lot of paint. I tested it out by painting this banana just for fun, and the reason I could paint this whole thing just using the one brush is because you can turn the brush at different angles to get different strokes. So of course you can get a flat wash with it, then if you turn it on its side you can get a thin line. If you want an even thinner line, you can just lift up the brush and do an even thinner line, and then you can also turn it on its side and get these little dots as well, because the brush comes to a really thin kind of tip, so it's easy to do details with it as well. So I love painting with it, and I feel like it's very versatile. You could even paint grass strokes as well. I can definitely see myself using this brush a lot because it's so versatile and I just love the feel of it. I really wanted to buy it in the 1/4 inch as well, but unfortunately they didn't have it in stock and they couldn't order it in, so instead I decided to try this 1/4 inch Princeton Neptune. This one is synthetic squirrel, so it's a little bit different to the synthetic Kolinsky in terms of the feel of it. It's a lot softer, and the bristles are also nowhere near as long, which means it won't hold as much paint, I think. It was still nice to use, but I think in the future I still want to try this in the Princeton Aqua Elite Stroke version where the bristles are longer, so hopefully in the future I can get my hands on that brush and test it out and see how it's different to this one. Again, with this brush I can turn it at lots of different angles to get different kinds of strokes, and I can paint all kinds of details with it as well. Another reason why I wanted to try flat brushes is because there are some artists that I really admire and whose works are really beautiful, and they paint primarily with just flat brushes, whereas I usually paint with a round brush and I only use a flat brush for the background. But I wanted to try just using flat brushes so I can get more of a painterly look, because I really enjoy the look of paintings that are done with just flat brushes. So anyway, here are the two bananas that I painted, one with the larger flat brush and one with the smaller one, and you can see that you can get the same result even though one brush is double the size of the other. It's all about just turning the brush at different angles to get different brush strokes. I also bought a round brush. This one is also by Princeton and it is synthetic Kolinsky, also part of the Aqua Elite range. I wanted to buy one that was similar in size to my silver black velvet round brush, which is made from a blend of natural and synthetic, but because I'm trying to move away from using brushes that are made with real hairs, so now I only purchase brushes that are completely synthetic, which is why I wanted to buy this one so I could test it out and see if it is a perfect replacement for my silver black velvet brush, because the other Princeton brush I bought a little while ago, it's a bit larger than the silver black velvet one I have, so I find I'm not reaching for it as much as I'd like to. So here I'm just testing it out and seeing how thin I can get the strokes to be, and I'm comparing it with the silver black velvet brush, which is this one here, and you can see it's quite similar. They both come to a really pointy tip, so it allows me to do really thin lines, which I like to do when I'm painting grass or just in general when I'm painting details. I like to be able to do really precise lines, so that's a great benefit of this brush. And when I compare it to the larger Princeton brush I have, you can see it's a bit harder for me to get those thin lines, so I'm hoping this new one I got is a better replacement. The last two brushes I bought are the same, just in different sizes. One of them is size 0 and one is size 2, and you can see I've already tested out the one on the left, which is why the bristles are stained green, and they are called filbert brushes, but I've also seen them being labeled as cat's tongue brushes because of the shape of them. It kind of looks like a tongue, and I wanted to try this because all of my brown brushes come to a really pointy tip, so it's hard to paint things which have more rounded shapes. For example, when I'm painting things like bushes, I want them to have more of a round shape, so I'll do a demo here and show you how I would ideally like to paint them with this brush, and I like the effect that it allows me to do. These two brushes are also synthetic and they were very inexpensive. They were only around $1 or $2 for each one. They also hold quite a bit of paint, which was quite surprising because they're very small, but that's definitely a positive. You can see I'm not reaching for paint a lot when I'm painting this, which means that the paint goes a really long way on the brush. Lastly, I also bought some watercolor supplies. I got the Winsor Newton Cotman Indigo because I somehow hit pan in my half pans. I don't know how I used it up so quickly, but I needed to replace the color since I really love this indigo color. So I got it in the tube and I only filled up a little bit in the pans because I want to try and use most of it fresh out of the tube since I don't have any other tubed watercolors. Then I also bought some masking fluid because I've been wanting to try that. If you guys have been following me on Instagram, I just finished a 30-day watercolor challenge, and the whole time I really wanted to experiment with masking fluid, but I didn't have any on hand. So I bought some now, and this was my first time using masking fluid. I didn't do anything fancy with it. I just painted in some circles using an old brush. Then I painted the paint on top of it and then removed the masking fluid once everything was dry, just so I could see how effective it was. I'll definitely have to experiment with it more and try out some other things with it in the future. When I was deciding what kind of masking fluid to buy, I bought the colorless one, but now I think I actually should have gone with one that had color in it because it really does dry transparently, so it's hard to see where I have and haven't masked on the paper once it's dry. So next time, if I do need another bottle, I think I will go for the non-colorless version. So that's all of the art supplies that I bought recently. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video and watching me test out some of these products. If you have any questions about anything that I mentioned, just leave it in the comments below. And if you have tried out any of these products, I'd love to know what you thought of them as well, so feel free to let me know as well. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!